Hey, how's it going?
Good, how are you?
Good. I'm Nicholas Sakavoyvid.
And I'm Mariam Hamoud.
We are London Calling.
We are.
We'll be dealing with the City Council meeting that happened 2 days ago.
Correct.
On Tuesday, June 24th. We're
Yes.
just going to be diving right into things.
Right, okay, so let's get going. So I think the first biggest thing was about the procurement process. Do you want to get right into that?
We can get right into procurement. Because they passed without talking about it, the Strategic Priorities and Planning Committee accepted the report from the London Middlesex Community Housing, the 2024 Annual General Meeting and Shareholder Annual Resolutions.
Yes.
So you watched the SPPC
I
meeting,
did.
so I thought we wanted to talk about this first, even though they didn't today at Council. I'm just going to drop some key findings, some facts from the LMCH Asset Management Plan from this year. They have about $1 billion of infrastructure total, with over 3,000 units, across over 30 properties.
Okay.
And they're saying there's a level of service gap. So most of their properties and the average property falls into the poor condition category. So in order to just maintain this poor condition over the next 10 years, they need $6.36 million. But in order to achieve a fair condition level of service, the 10-year cumulative infrastructure gap increases to $34 million. So this is something I've been focusing on.
Yeah.
You said they really talked about it a lot at the meeting.
They did.
What was the conversation like there?
The conversation was well, it was a lot of back and forth between the boards of directors. So it was Phil Squire and I can't remember the chair's name. Chair is Phil Squire.
I thought Phil
chair?
was the
And
chair.
then there was Chisholm. I think his name is Mr. Chisholm. He was also there. He might be the executive director, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
And they just went through all the details, but. Mainly, I think council's really worried about the stock getting older, and I think we touched upon that last time. And in order to kind of make sure that we don't fall into a situation where it gets further and further behind, some of these things have to come down. And I think this is the biggest issue, is because we're trying to bring up more housing. There's gonna be a shortfall on this end.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, most of the buildings are still from the 70s.
They're from,
and there's been a lack of funding that's seems to have been consistently underfunded for a while.
Correct.
And when that happens, it's just going to create a big gap in the future. So this is why I identified this a couple months ago, and we've been talking about it consistently.
Yeah.
The need to put some of that surplus money
Back
toward
into
it, maybe
housing.
into specifically geared to income housing.
And the other thing that I want to talk a little bit about LMHC, and this is community housing. It's subsidized housing, some of it, and it's rent to income geared.
Yeah.
So however much you make, the stock isn't that great. But there's also problems in terms of the management of the buildings. I know there being cockroach issues.
Yeah, right.
And so there are those issues as well and safety issues.
You hear about those things in the paper all the time.
Yeah.
Those sorts of things. It's kind of sensationalized a bit, but it is a real thing. And they're saying openly, it's a poor condition. That's why they need all this money. It's $3 million a year. I think they right now they get about 15 or 16 million from the city, and their total operating budget I think is about 25 million, and that's going up, of course, with inflation. The cost of everything goes up, so
everything's going to go up. And then there's the other issue of some people that are in those homes shouldn't be in those homes. They should be in more
supportive
wraparound supportive housing. And so that kind of what happens is some of those units get deteriorated because of mental health issues of the people that are staying inside of them. So again, it exacerbates issues such as cockroaches and whatnot. So what I'm trying to say is people like Phil Squire and Mr. Chisholm are trying to deal with the issues. They just, I think, with everything else, they need more money.
Yeah, it was kind of funny. Trostow, he voted against accepting this report. And I was kind of what exactly is he standing against? They've been operating on slim budgets. Oh, yeah. Barely keeping things together. And
he's against that they're getting that less amount of money, even though, the issues that he's addressing aren't the same issues that the London Middlesex Housing Corporation is actually addressing. He's not listening to them.
They need almost double the amount of money they're getting from the city approximately, if I were to guess, in order to even get close to getting their units to fair condition over the next 10 years. So now let's move on now to the Infrastructure and Corporate Services Committee, and they were talking about the procurement of goods and services policy for like an hour and a half.
My goodness. And they didn't really get, like, I mean, if you took it and you combined it, all you get out of it is semi-annual reporting is already more frequent than many comparable public agencies.
That's right.
And then a 6-month runway is needed to implement the new policy effectively. And this council's only going to be around anyway. It's just,
They're trying to amend it in different ways to like have quarterly reports and then quarterly reports after the first 6 months. And it was just like a whole lot of, and I even Stevenson was said something funny to the effect of, will we still be able to vote on things after the fact to show the public where we stand?
no, you can't.
You know what I mean? It's just like,
Democracy's over. Sorry.
but yeah, no, yeah. Well, they're saying 84% of the stuff that's of these competitive bids on budget approved projects are not going to go to council anymore. It'll be just done by staff, which I'm fine with. I think staff is super. They seem like they're super in control of the situation. They always know what's going on. They're actually really impressive people. Those senior staffers, they're like.
Well, this is the thing with council. They need to release the ties off of the hands of these people, because I find when we're doing procurements for the city, there aren't enough people bidding for it, so it becomes restrictive. So the more you restrict something, the less you get. So you want to make that a bigger, you want to make it less restrictive so you get more in. That increases competition and brings down the prices. So
Absolutely.
It works better that way.
Well, this is part of the concerns too, of like less transparency and less control, because so Deputy Mayor Lewis, for example, pointed out that some of the businesses in his area are concerned that some of these contracts go out, they feel like they're still overbid, right? But at the end of the day, like if it's budget approved and they have a competitive process, like and that's what they voted on doing.
Yeah.
Let the city staff handle it, but they'll still see anything that's extra budgetary or from a single source.
Yeah, single source that's problematic, and I think that has to. What does that have to go through? Single source funding.
I think they still has to go through city, through the council for approval.
Well, it depends on there's a ceiling, right? So I don't know what the number is, but say anything under like $1 million would go to staff. I don't know if that's the number. I'm just using that number.
Sure.
And then anything above that would have to go through council. And I think that's prudent. You want to make sure that number is high enough that they can actually do work, and low enough that council is still maintaining kind of like that oversight.
Well, you need councillors to have time to represent their constituency, and to also like try to be leaders, right? They can't be worried about the minutia, and basically it just slows things down in a way. The more you bring in front of council, the more of a chance it won't go through. But let's move on here. So then there's the Community and Protective Services Committee.
Right.
They talked about a couple things. One was the grassroots innovation stream, which they weren't happy about. They barely received the report. They're worried about how the money was being dispersed. Whether this money was being used to support the budgetary needs of nonprofits as opposed to the one-off programs that it was meant to support. So it's looking like the city's going to be looking at it anyway.
Is this the report that the stuff that Councillor Stevenson was talking about?
Well, she was talking about every issue.
Well, this is the thing. I want to address some of the things that she said, but I'm like on every issue, it's just like I want more information. I want more information. I want more information.
Yeah, she's always kind of like worried about not having enough information, and at some point, like the staff is always like, well, it's all available. Like some of the other stuff, like the highly supportive housing plan, cost breakdown schedule, the life stabilization purchase of service agreements. These discussions, like she's always bringing up this stuff. It almost seems like had she not been there, the meeting would have gone twice as fast and the exact same results would have been achieved, because none of her amendments even came close to being passed, and they're discussing them ad infinitum, and most of the time the staffers were just like, well, this information is already available one way or another, or we did it the way you asked us to.
Well, there's one issue where she said that the report was all redacted. Okay, and this is the thing, like there's reasons why things are redacted, but if so the biggest issue I think she was having was with 602 Queens, right, and some renovations that happened there. 602
Queens, what are they doing?
That is the building that was Infotech, right on the corner of Queens and Adelaide. I volunteered in there with the Sisters of St. Joseph's, and I've been on the board of the Regional HIV/AIDS Committee, and I was there for renovations as well. So the place needs work. So if the issue's about renovations, well, we need to renovate things in order to get people working. So I don't know.
I think that was one of the things they brought up in the CPSC section as a request for update on 2021 Reaching Home, which is funding London Care's Unity project and Elosa. Right. And she's like, where is this money going? And then like other councillors stand up and they were talking about Chuck Lazenby, who runs the Unity project. Like she's been a community leader
she's awesome
in that project for as long as I remember, like close to 20 years.
Yeah.
Right, London Cares, Elosa, like these are the only people doing anything. And she's like, how do we know their programs are working? It's like, well, you guys have only built 2 hubs and you only have 2 highly supportive housing units coming. It's like, how much impact do you expect to have when you're moving so slowly on stuff?
But you can only do as much as the money gives you. You can't do more than the money gives you. So if we're only giving them this much money and this is what they can do with it, then I think, for me, if you're going to give somebody a project, they're going to make mistakes or there's going to be issues with it.
Yeah.
But at least they're doing some work. And I know, like with all, conflict of interest, I know Chris Moss well. We're friends. We're close friends, actually. Okay. Like we know each other pretty well for a long time. And I'm going to tell you, she is one of the kindest human beings I know. I would trust her with my children. I'm not joking when I say that to you.
Good, yeah.
And so I know that...
Trust her with your mother?
Honestly, yes, I would. And I know that London Cares is in good hands with her, and I trust what she does.
Yeah, it seems like I said, they're the only people making a difference. Like, a part of this was this Reaching Home project from 2021 is $2 million of federal funding that they split up. So I think like their Unity project is adding more housing units. One of the projects they're talking about was this pallet housing thing. Yeah,
they're going to do housing on pallet. Yeah. So
I know they were looking at like these like 2 double occupancy kind of like tiny units too, like back a couple of years ago. I like that's something I've been thinking about following up with more specifically.
Like the tiny homes
at Unity project. Yeah. In their parking lot.
I love the idea of tiny homes, but with the tiny home thing, I think you need to kind of put together a community. So I think, was it you that told me that we should be doing the small housing for like Indigenous people?
No. I was saying that they made the right decision with the hubs because oftentimes, as you're pointing out now, tiny homes would need support.
Yes.
Like they would have a Unity project, which is great. I was suggesting that you have like a prefab tiny home zoning project for residential infill in subdivisions. So for example, in Old East Village, people's backyards, maybe they could have a single occupancy cabin or bunkie that they could use to...
You would need, so first of all, you would need either to partner with a nonprofit or you need to partner with a developer and or you need to take on stock as a city. So I like the idea of developer though. Like I think that's where it has to go.
Yeah, they have prefabricated houses, buildings for the highly supportive housing, right? It's something... I think Ellis Dawn they're working with to do that. So I mean, they could have a similar program, I'm sure, or even just like a special code that allows people to build their own bunkies. It's complicated because it has to tie in with sewage and water and all that stuff. But nothing's impossible. But we're digressing. This wasn't.
Yeah, really sorry. Yes, keep going.
It's okay. So, and then there's the City of London's Municipal Rent Assistance Program. So this is in partnership with Elosa Healing Services, which is an Indigenous-led agency we talk about. It's intended to provide portable housing benefits, rent supplements, and Indigenous community members in need. So they're talking about all these things, and there's a lot of coming and going, but basically it all got pushed through pretty smoothly, and that takes us to the Planning Environment Committee.
Heck.
This is pretty quick, too, right? They're talking about the Hyde Park BIA expansion.
Yes.
Which they're sending back for further consultation because I guess at the end of the day, the BIA imposes a levy. Mm-hmm. On businesses in this area, so it's like. So is this Hyde Park? But
it's a great little area, and I know there are problems on council in terms of like why are we doing this with Hyde Park and not in other places, and why aren't we focusing more on downtown London? So there are these competing things, like all these BIAs, but then why aren't we investing more money into downtown? Yeah,
I don't know about the BIA in like Hyde Park, but I know a lot of them, like the one in Old East is very active and seems to do a lot for the community and the challenges they have there. So just like anything, it has to be, you have to make sure you're getting your bang for your buck, and that stuff is happening that I can't really speak to. Then we were talking about 743 Richmond Street.
Yep.
The mayor was really talking up this Fitzrovia development company out of Toronto that seems to have do a lot of work there, especially in tight footprint building. So this would assist, having a developer like this with its unique experience would assist in
So wait, is this?
density infill.
Tell me about this place. So it does density infill and their environmental. Is that kind of?
I don't know. They weren't talking about any sort of environmental emphasis per se, but it was more about small footprint like skyscrapers.
Okay.
Residential stuff. It seems like the London plan is really succeeding with building apartments.
Yeah.
But London Free Press I just saw last week, new home building is down 75% at the same time. So.
Because have you seen the stock online? It's crazy. Like I'm looking for a house right now, and the prices have plummeted like 50,000 within like a few months.
Well, that's good and it's bad.
So if you're a homeowner, bad. If you're a buyer.
Well, that's what they were predicting, the peak of the housing stuff a couple of years ago, and people were trying to are you going to be afford your mortgages 2 years from now? But it seemed like it was never going to stop. It seemed like it was never going to slow down for a while.
So the sad thing is like now, between now and the end of 2026, these are when all of these mortgages are going to be due, right. And a lot of those ones are going to start. People are going to be defaulting on their mortgages, right. So that's kind of where it becomes scary.
Yeah. Because
I was looking at some numbers yesterday. God help us. Canadians are at 200% of their debt. So they pay for every dollar we have $2. That's like Black Monday stock market.
Household debt load has definitely been
That's
increasing consistently.
Scary.
Conspicuous spending has been like a thing too, like people buying these oversized houses, which isn't good for the environment, isn't really actually that good for the economy. I
hate big houses.
But it's like what are you going to do? I mean, the federal government's, God bless them, they're still going to be spending huge amounts of money trying to address these serious crises we're dealing with. So we're going to have high interest rates for a while, probably. So it's going to be very precarious on the housing market. So slow development there. Everybody's going to be renting.
If this is the other thing too, is the condos in Toronto are mostly empty. And they're trying to sell those too. So you have to watch. So I feel like it comes from Vancouver. So once Vancouver is starting to have that plummet, then it moves to Toronto, and then it moves to us.
Well, they have a lot of apartment housing stock, and people increases mobility within the city. Like for people moving, maybe that'll be good for getting younger people into houses again. If housing prices continue to go down a little bit. So that's cool. Third report of the budget committee was taken in. They were talking about the Development Charges Act, so that's the Ontario thing that we covered that in our budget meeting. Stevenson nays that for some reason. I'm not sure. She wasn't really very effective today. I really can't stress that. We were being nice to her last. We're in our last cast. We were being fair with her.
We were being fair,
but she just wasted an hour and a half of the meeting.
She has questions, fine, but where are they going? This is the thing, is at what point do you stop asking questions and you start actually looking, not just
what
looking
are you
for
asking
answers?
Questions that are already answered?
Yeah, what is the purpose behind, are you just trying to raise questions to make people hate on something, or are we questioning things in order to get real answers? I don't understand the tactic. Yeah,
one of the things they're talking about was in the Community Protective Services was the updated highly supportive housing plan cost breakdown schedule. Where they had averaged the costs between these two new projects, the highly supportive housing projects, Indwell and the other, and I feel like she was being a bit of a gremlin on it, and the staff was like, the information's all there. I was able to find information on both the projects when I was looking into them a couple months ago. I didn't need the dashboard.
Good thing.
I love the dashboards though. Or maybe an instrument panel, in an airplane, a really complicated dashboard that has all of every little bit of information you get from the reports and from the city meetings, etc., and from the partner reports. Let's get it all on one page, so we can see it all. Forget Google.
Yeah. Let's forget Google.
So that's good.
Yeah, I think this council me too much time. I think they took a long time to do it.
Yeah, and the SPPC meeting was 5 hours too. You watched it. I didn't watch it. It's
I did.
We're going to start covering those things more though, I think, as we go, as we can generate this content quicker. We just want to thank you guys so much.
Yes.
Please like and follow. It really helps us get the message out. Our viewership is increasing really quickly from week to week, which is super exciting to see. We're putting a lot of hard work making everything better quality. So if you guys can just show us a little A little
Love.
click love.
Yeah, yeah. Awesome.